Images from yesterday, and we're right to a Fox News alert here. An American flag in flames and police under attack. A former officer's acquittal sparking violence in St. Louis.
Yeah, we now know that 32 protesters are under arrest. At least 10 police officers have been injured. 2 of those officers have been taken to the hospital.
This is all in relation to the acquittal of a white police officer in the shooting death of a black man. As you can see, obviously, there in St. Louis, turning violent overnight. It's a situation that the evidence is pretty interesting. You need to go deep and you need to read it before you jump to any conclusions on this case, because it is not as simple as these protesters would like us to believe.
It's also not clear what the American flag has to do with
exactly
an officer being acquitted in what is a complicated situation. Involved a potential bust. He thought of a drug deal. There was a weapon involved. There's a vehicle involved. A long trial. And ultimately an acquittal from one judge, and a reaction yesterday with protests outside the mayor's office, which included the burning of this American flag, as well as bricks being thrown. It ceases to be a protest.
I like that point
when
that you
you're
made.
Throwing bricks. That's a violent riot.
Exactly.
At which point you see the 32 arrested, but as unfortunately 10 police officers injured in the process.
Absolutely.
As well.
We want to bring in Lawrence Jones now, a host for The Blaze. Lawrence, I know, look, this is an issue that you are often on the show talking about. Emotions run incredibly high. We're talking about the violence, but if you compare this to riots and protests that have broken out in years past, recent years, Baltimore and Ferguson, it seemed far more peaceful. Either way, though, this shouldn't be happening. You say we all need to take a step back.
Yeah, good morning, family. I go to most of these protests to see what's happening on the ground because I don't want to see what the media is talking about. I think it's important to note this, Abby, that I understand the pain between the community and the police. I get that, and I get people wanting to make judgments on cases. But after you have these emotional fits, you have to look at the facts. And I think it's important when you look at this case, there was so much doubt in this case that even the Obama administration, the DOJ, that is normally quick to rush to judgment, didn't even get involved. Remember, this happened before the Mike Brown incident, and the DOJ took the Mike Brown case before they took this case because there was just so much doubt. So I would encourage everyone, and I get it. I get how emotions run hot on these issues, and I get what's happening in these communities. But you have to take a step back and look at the facts, because in a court of law, it's not about your emotions. It's about what you can prove to a jury.
Lawrence, but I mean, you got folks showing up in masks, with clubs, with weapons, whether it's Black Lives Matter or Antifa or an amalgamation thereof. Is there any justification dancing on the top of police cars? This is not a legitimate protest. This is rioting. At what point do we call it that and deal with it that way?
Well, the moment it turns violent is a riot. But I would encourage people to go back, and I was there when the decision happened for Mike Brown. When the arrest reports came out after it was all said and done, 70 to 80% of the people that looted, rioted, were people that were from outside of St. Louis in Ferguson. So what you're seeing is that a lot of these leftist agitators like Antifa are being bussed in by the liberals to create this chaos. Remember, a lot of these businesses that were torched during the Ferguson decision are still rebuilding back from 2014. And so what you don't realize, a lot of people don't realize, is that this is really not the city doing this. These are people that are paid to create chaos.
All right.
And oftentimes, as you were saying, Todd, too, they don't always understand all the facts that are involved in the actual case.
Right. Let's switch gears, Lawrence. Let's go to ESPN, the four-letter network. Jamel Hill saying, sorry, not sorry. ESPN saying sort of the same thing. I guess the overall point that so many people are wondering, why is it okay when liberals do this, but if a conservative says anything that sort of smacks of controversy, they're fired immediately, they're on every single news network, it is a huge hullabaloo in America?
Yeah, well, let me say this. I believe in free speech. And I actually think Jamil is a great sports commentator. But I think she should stay in the sports arena. The problem with ESPN is that not that they are allowing the liberals to speak vocally. It's the matter of not letting their conservative commentators that have their political ideology speak their mind. And there seems to be, from the Kurt Schilling, a double standard when it comes to the host. So the people aren't outraged because she said what she said, because she has a First Amendment, although she's wrong about it. It's the fact that they have a double standard for their other commentators is why people are so outraged.
Lawrence, the president of ESPN put out a memo to employees after this incident, and it said this. It said, in light of recent events, we need to remind ourselves that we are a journalistic organization and that we should not do anything that undermines that position. We also know that ESPN is a special place and that our success is based on you and your colleagues' work. Let's not let the public narrative rewrite who we are or what we stand for. Let's not be divided in that pursuit. I will need your support if we are to succeed. You mentioned double standard, Lawrence. Is there not one standard? Yeah. Isn't it clear that ESPN has made its bed? It's a newsroom full of leftists that also do sports. They take one perspective. Conservatives are not welcome.
Right, exactly. And that's what I was saying as you were reading the statement. They talked about journalism. I said it's too late. It's too late. During the campaign, you see different issues that are social issues in the movement of the leftists today, and they are vocal about it. When you see people that may have a conservative leaning that come on the network, they are bullied. They sometimes you don't see them back on air. They are fired. The standard is pretty clear right now based on ESPN's record. And if they really value the First Amendment, or if they just want to be journalists, stick to what you do, covering sports, and we won't have any problems.
Yeah, and actions always speak a lot louder than any words can. Lawrence, always good having you. We really appreciate your perspective this morning.
Good stuff. Thank you.
Good to see you.
Thanks, family. Y'all take care.